all so much for coming. I've been so excited about this entire event for the last month since I posted it, but it's actually been in planning for a lot longer than that. What typically happens is I get a lot of clients who call me and they're just super stressed about wedding planning. I don't understand what's to be stressed about wedding planning. Wedding planning is fantastic. I suppose I have to say that since I'm a wedding planner. But to be fair, what I really wanted to do was make sure that I could help everybody out and try and get you guys some information that'll get you into the right mindset so that you too can not be stressed about your planning. My name is Martine. I am the Capable Bride, the owner and the founder of the Capable Bride. And what I really wanted to share with you guys is just some tips and some information that'll help you get into the right course for planning. Typically what I find is that people are stressed about planning or really frazzled about the whole process because they've gotten off on the wrong foot. So if we can get you going the right way, we can get you moving in the right direction, and then you can do what I like for everybody to do on their wedding day, which is party. You have spent so much time and so much energy, and all your friends are there, and it's such a big, important milestone in your life. How could you not want to do that, right? So basically, my goal is to make sure that when you all get to your day, you can have a blast. You can enjoy it. You can remember it as this special moment that it's supposed to be. In order to do that, we need to do a few things just so that you can get on the right page. So first thing I'm going to do, I know you're all sitting with people that you don't necessarily know. So this is a bit of an icebreaker, but it's not too bad. Just talk for a few minutes about what's been going well in your wedding planning, what hasn't been going so well and where you might be a little frustrated, and things that you might like to see moving forward. So talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes and then we'll digest in a few. There are a lot of steps to wedding planning, for sure. And what you'll see in front of you is each and every one of you should have a folder in front of you. Go ahead and pull that out. And basically what we're going to do, you did come here to work. So I know there was food and there was drinks and we're here for fun, but we are also here to help you plan your weddings. So in front of you, you should each have a folder that has a few forms in it. Basically, the concept here is this. If you can get started with the right plan, even things such as the colors for your bridesmaid's dress become a whole lot easier. So that's what we're going to do. The first sheet that you want to take out is the time management worksheet. So you should have that in front of you. The second sheet in the stack, time management worksheet. And you should all each have a pen as well. Now these sheets are for you. No need to share amongst the group unless you want to. But it is really to get you into that right place, right? So take the time to actually fill out the sheets as it goes. So the first question is, do you have a planner that you're already using? Not just a person, but an actual physical planner, whether it be electronic, on your phone,
like a book or something?
A book, etc. Anything that actually is helping you to plan this event. Do you have something that you're writing things down in, whether that be electronic or otherwise? It could be paper, that's fine. But is there a planner that you're using? Okay? Yes, please go ahead and fill out the forms as you're digesting. Again, like I said, you don't have to share, but please do actually take the time to make the work worth it. What would that look like? Hours, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be for you. And what did you include in those steps? So I'm going to assume that at least some of you have included looking for vendors, right? But go ahead and list out anything else that you might have included in your planning steps. And then the biggest question, the most important question on here, honestly, is how do you plan on choosing your vendors? I'm not sure how many of you are aware, and if you are, you can feel free to raise your hands, how long it typically takes the average bride to plan her wedding. On average, it takes about 6 hours a week. and it takes about a year to plan. So we're talking about 300 hours worth of planning time.
Wow.
Did anybody have 300 hours on their amount of time to plan?
No.
No? Were you expecting to spend basically a few months of full-time work planning your wedding? How many of you actually work full-time? Do you have an extra full-time's worth of work to put into planning your wedding? So in order to do this effectively, you actually need to be able to budget the time properly. The biggest part of that planning cycle really is choosing your vendors. So when you're choosing your vendors, how do you go about doing that? You've got to do the research. You've got to vet them out. You're going online probably. First, you're probably going to Pinterest. I know, everybody's going to Pinterest, and that's great. Pinterest is full of ideas and lots of beautiful, pretty stuff, which is the most important part, right? So now that you've got an idea of what you want, which admittedly people spend quite a bit of time on, once you've actually planned out the pretty parts, now what? Now you got to actually do some work, right? Like you actually have to find those vendors. How do you do that? Where do you do that? How do you pick the right one? How do you decide which one is going to be the part for your wedding? Okay, so you're probably starting on something big, the knot, wedding wire, totally acceptable. Lots of vendors on there, lots of great vendors on there. Got lots of information for research. How much time did it take you to research one vendor? Okay, now I've researched the vendors. I'm probably sending out some information for requests, right? So nobody posts their prices anywhere. I know, it's a mess, but you got to deal with it. It's part of the industry. So we've got no prices. We've got to reach out to the vendors to figure out if they're in your price range. How much time did you spend doing that? Okay, finally found a vendor that's in my price range, that's willing to work with me. I'm totally there. We got to sign contracts. That's going to take some time. You got to read those. Everybody read them. Promise me. Everybody promise me that you're going to read it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So you got to read those contracts. You got to make sure that you're actually getting what it is that they specified for you. Once you've done all of that, all you've just done is pick a vendor. The average wedding has at least 10 vendors. Oh my gosh, Martine, what? No, there can't be 10 vendors. There are at least 10 vendors that you will be dealing with. There are probably more. You've got to pick your venue. You've got to pick a photographer. You've got to pick a videographer. You've got to pick a florist. You've got to pick a dress. You've got to pick all kinds of things. It's a lot of shopping and a lot of decisions, but it's going to take you a minute to go through that entire list and source out each of the vendors that you're picking. Be kind to yourselves and allot yourselves the appropriate amount of time to do that. Get the right recommendations and make sure that you're actually picking the vendors that will work for you. Okay, we've picked vendors. And we know how much time it's going to take on each of those. Well, what about the rest of planning? Okay, picking the vendors isn't the end of your planning cycle, right? So we know we've got to leave enough time to do that. But you have to actually meet with all of the vendors. There are tastings, there are fittings, there are selections on flowers. You actually have to spend time with all of these people. By the way, one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this was because I really wanted you guys to meet some wedding vendors. Like I wanted you to be able to appropriately network and connect with these people. They're going to be spending the most important day of your life for most of you all day. And if you don't know them, it's a little awkward maybe sometimes, right? So let's try and get rid of that awkwardness and spend some appropriate time with the vendors so that you know who they are and you can trust that they're doing what it is that you need them to do on your special day. Allocate some time for all of that. Now, having said all of that, there's the last minute stuff and there's a few other things that we haven't discussed. But so far, were any of you in the ballpark of where you were going to estimate time for planning your wedding? Okay, all right, that's fair. If not, what did you forget? It's on the sheet. Go ahead and write that down for yourselves. And here's the biggest question. Are you able and willing to spend that time on planning? If the answer is no, how are you going to handle it? have a plan. Have a plan for how you're going to spend all of this time to make sure that you can cover all the things that need to be covered. All right, we've gotten through time factor. It's a lot. Yes, I know. That's not the fun stuff. I admit it. A lot of my job is probably not the sexy stuff you think about when you think wedding planner. I get it. But realistically speaking, this is where you need to start so that you have a good foundation. You know how much time it takes to actually walk through the entire thing. If you set yourself up with a good plan, everything else is easier. Now, I understand planning doesn't always mean that you're going to not be able to follow the plan entirely 100%. That's okay. But if you start from somewhere first, it makes the rest of it smooth sailing. That's why I like my job. I'm a planner. That's what I do. So I enjoy it. All right, the next part of this, there's another worksheet for you. It's the budget worksheet. I know, money. Nobody likes to talk about the money. I'm gonna make you talk about the money, and it's okay. Every wedding is different. There is no one size fits all. It really is about you and your loved one, the one person you're going to marry on the day of this big event, somebody that you love entirely. You don't want money to be the hindrance. You don't want money to be your problem. So the goal of talking about the money up front as opposed to later on is to make sure we avoid any kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding, right? We just want to understand what it is that we're trying to do. What kind of day do we want to have? What do we actually have the money for? And where do those two things coincide? So that's what we're going to talk about for a few minutes. So the first question that I ask everybody is, do you already have a budget tracker? Anybody actually tracking their budget? Okay, guys, with everything else that you do you track your money? If you're going to do anything else, you're like, I know how much I have, I'm going to spend it, right? It's not a big deal. With this, if you don't want it to get a little bit overboard and a little out of control, it's probably a good idea to have a tracker. You can look for these all over the internet. I do have one as well. If you're interested, you can feel free to reach out and I can share where you can actually get a tracker that will actually do what you need it to do. Have you all booked a reception location? Okay, fantastic. We've got some people who have. Looks like a few haven't, no problem. The reception is admittedly going to be the largest chunk of where you're going to spend your money. So the good news is if you've already booked it, you already have a good chunk of your budget already allocated for. So fantastic. You at least have a starting point where you know you're working from. The next question is a little more personal. What type of wedding are you envisioning? Are you looking for serious class? Fun? Adventurous? It's all up to you and it's about what you want. All right, anybody want to share what kind of wedding they're looking for? All right, we've got one in the audience. Pass her the mic. Ooh, roaring 20s. Fun. That sounds awesome. What made you want to pick that? Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. So again, great. Oh, you've got a vision. You've got a definite vision in there that's going on. The next question is about the number of people that you want there. How many people do you want there? You don't have to share. You can just write it down. How many guests do you want in attendance?
Want or expect?
Expect, want, desire, being forced into, whatever the case may be for you. Okay, now has anybody here actually created a wedding budget? Anybody? No budgets yet? Oh, fantastic. I got you guys all early. It's fantastic. We'll get to that in a second. So the question was, how much are you expecting a couple to save prior to their wedding? And we'll get to that in a second. But basically for now is, if you have a budget, go ahead and list it. If not, we're going to get you to the place where you can actually select a budget that makes sense for you. Okay, so here's the game. I want you all to imagine a perfect date night. Just the two of you. Whatever that looks like for you. Maybe there's a 4-course meal. Maybe there's some drinks. Maybe there's some live music. Whatever that looks like for you. Imagine what that looks like. Go ahead and write down what that looks like for you in terms of a vision. I'll give you a second to do that. And all eyes back on me when you're done so I know everybody's ready. Okay. Okay, everybody's got their perfect date night vision. Yes? Okay, perfect. Now imagine how much that night just cost you. Okay, that's less fun, I know, but just do it for me. Write that number down, whatever that happens to be for you.
Doesn't go that high.
So we've got my math doesn't go that high. Any other reactions in the room? How close was that to your actual budget? Now I know most of you didn't have one, but even if you had a number in your head, how close was that to your actual number? Anybody even within like 50%?
Yeah.
How about 30? No? So that's the problem, right? Is when we start these things, we look at it from the perspective of how bad can it be? Like, I mean, it's one day, it's one party. Yes, it's really important, but it's still one event. The thing is, you're adding all of these things. We didn't even talk about all the other stuff you're adding. We just looked at the date night, right? We didn't talk about a personal photographer for hours. We didn't talk about flowers that are catered to you and your vision. We didn't talk about a dress that is custom fitted and suited for you. None of this did we add actually to what you're looking at. So yes, it's going to cost a pretty penny. So there are two things that you can do. You're like, okay, Martine, thanks for killing my dream. And I was so excited about this and it was gonna be awesome. And like, what happened? So here's the reason that I do this. And here's the reason that I'm expecting you to actually do this work first, is because what's important for you to do is examine, are you willing to increase that budget? If not, where are you willing to scale back? This is about you and your person. This is about a lifetime of love and your friends and your family. It is whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be the perfect date night for your closest 200 friends, right? Nobody said that that's what the vision was. But if that is your vision, if that's what you truly want, you have to do the job of figuring out where is that going to come from. Otherwise, we might decide that it's a perfect date night for just the two of us. This is really, like, again, the whole point of this is that this is really about where you want this to go. Like, it is entirely your day in your way. As I said before, there's an average, there are averages and there are things that everybody does. That doesn't mean you have to do all of them. But it does mean you have to be conscious of where this is going so that you can make the right decision for yourself. They say the average cost of a wedding in New York City is about $75,000. That's just average, so there are people above and below, right? But that doesn't mean that has to be your number. You've got to figure out what your number is for a day that makes you and your fiance happy. There are going to be a lot of opinions. There's going to be a lot of say-so from outside parties. And if you have no plan, you leave yourself open to the influence of all of those outside influences and parties. What you want to do is really try and take the time to make sure you know where you're going. If you've got the plan, everything else is going to be all right. Okay, so that's the main part of this. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about me and why, this wedding planning seminar. This is supposed to be the first of 12. So if you're interested in attending the rest of the seminars, you do each have in your gift bags a save the date for the next event. So go ahead and look at that. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram so that you can keep up to date as to where and when that next event will be held. I love everybody peeking in their bags. I hope you like them. There's also a present in there for all of you. Please do go ahead and use that to the best of your ability. And a little bit more about what this is supposed to do. So why 12, right? Again, the average person spends 12 months planning their wedding. That's why 12. I give you the right information at the right time, so I make sure that you keep up with all of the what to do and when to do it, right? That's part of the plan. It's also a little less stressful than having, say, like an every week thing where you really just have to commit that much time right up front to planning your wedding. So this allows you to get some time in that is not necessarily all together. Plus, I mean, let's be real. Would you rather plan your wedding at home, by yourself, with no assistance? Or is it more fun to have some food and some drinks and some other people that are there to help you plan? So that was the goal, is to give you the actual time. One, we know it takes a lot of time, but here's a way for you to guaranteed have an opportunity every month to have a chance to plan your wedding. Two, it gives you a chance to meet all the other vendors, maybe make some bookings while you're at it so that you don't have to like go back and do a lot of that research yourself. And three, realistically, again, you need the plan, right? Like I'm really just trying to get you focused on getting on that train. We got to get on that train. All right, we've got a question. Absolutely. This is not just for the ladies, although I know I am the capable bride. That's really mostly because, again, part of this is I know that mostly it's the women who end up planning the events. It is a good idea, in fact, even if your fiance is not here this evening, that you share this information with him so that he understands where this is coming from too. Actually, most of the time what I deal with is a lot of people who the bride may have an idea and an understanding of where this is going to go, but her fiance doesn't necessarily. And because that's the case, you spend a lot of time explaining why everything costs so much money, what you're doing with all of that time, why you actually need some help. So that's the other part where I come in. As much as I've said all of this time and planning, wedding planning is not a solitary event. It's not a job meant for one person. It's just not. That's not how it was supposed to be. It's not how it was designed. So be kind to yourselves and get the help that you need. Ask for help where you need it. Do not feel that it is just about me and my sad story and my crazy schedule. There are at least two people involved. I promise you. So get the help so that you can actually be successful in getting this, and you don't have to make yourself crazy doing it. I understand there are probably some of you in this room who definitely want what they want. And you may have a fiance who really just wants to get married. And that might be most of you, and I understand that. Now there are some I've met many of the fiancé who does care, so that we can't take it for granted. But I'm just saying, you do want to make sure that you include all of that workload, that you're figuring out how you're going to split that up. That is in part where I come in. I am a wedding planner. I am here to help save you time and money. How can I do that? One, I've got the plan. I've got a plan that will work for you. We have a conversation, we talk about what it is that you're looking to do. I help you find your vendors, and I save you all of that research and homework time. I also come in for the day of your wedding. And this is a big one. Honestly, a lot of times people think that wedding planners is maybe out of scope, or that's really just for the rich, or it's really a luxurious item. But when you think about the time and the energy and the money and the everything else that you're spending, do you want to get to your day and not have fun? Do you really want to be running around on the day of your wedding when you're trying to relax and have a good time and enjoy a special moment with your family, trying to figure out if the florist set up and did they give you what you wanted, what you were promised? Do you want to figure out if catering's going to be on time? Do you want to figure out if all of the little pieces and running around, just even creating a schedule for the day? I get it, money's money. So we all have to do what we have to do. At the end of the day, sometimes it's just easier to plan it yourself. But even easier when we say that, what does that really mean? Set yourselves up for success by having the right plan and the right mindset, and your wedding day will be fabulous. All right, now I want to invite up my friend Rebecca Verpeel, the new Mrs. Verpeel, so she can share a little bit about her experience and you can get a better sense of the timing and everything else that went well for her.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca, and June will make a year since I got married. My husband is actually here tonight. Here's Jeff on the guitar, so another round of applause for him. You did excellent, honey. You did excellent. So I'm here to just tell you guys more about the trying experience of planning a wedding and the reality of it. Because as much as we see on Instagram, Facebook, and all of the likes and Pinterest, it's not all happy-go-lucky when you do wedding planning. And also, I have to explain how Martine literally saved me in a crisis moment during my wedding planning. So you could call me a girly girl that has already known or imagined their wedding ever since they were small, what they would like, what they would do, and what they want that day to look like, which is great. So I actually had a 2-year jump in planning my wedding. The 4 things that I already knew since before I even dated Jeff were who my florist needed to be, my theme, who my videographer needed to be, and who my hairstylist, very important, your hairstylist, to give you the look that you wanted. So those 4 things were out of the way. So a lot of the places where I felt, okay, I know some of the main things, I don't need that much help, which I was wrong. So we got engaged October 2015, November 2015, venue booked. The whole entire month we spent, and I did exactly what Martine said. It's visiting the websites, Googling The Knot, Wedding Buyer, Facebook, Instagram, looking up places where you're like, oh, everyone's used this venue. I don't want this venue. I don't want to be just another wedding at the same venue. Trying to look for something different, something close, something nice. So that time I met with everyone face to face. I did not base it on what I saw on the website. I made it my duty. So Martine will probably save me the toll money. Going to Jersey, going across to Westchester, coming into the city to really meet with all of these vendors for these venues face to face to make sure that my day came out perfect. So we ended up finding one, which was great. In November, I was booked. So I said, oh, I'm ahead of the game. Booking November 2015, wedding June 2017. So what? Like, I have time. And I did, and I was a do-it-yourself bride, and not for like the arts and crafts or the glittery things, but I needed to be involved in every step. So things like from the announcements, like even these, all me, I was the shutterfly fanatic, and I sent out everything from the announcements, the save the dates, the engagement announcements, the bridal shower invitations, and I did it all. And the parts that I didn't think about was the labeling, the stuffing, the getting the names written correctly, because people get offended when their names aren't written right, which is important. And I think around February, March 2017, I started feeling the stress. And it would just be little things, and I'm crying, and I'm like, you don't get it. Yes, this is important. Why isn't nobody listening? And in that process, my mom, who's here tonight, my brother, my fiance, myself, and my maid of honor, Jenny, who was all the way in Florida, was my core. So as Martine said, there's at least 2 people involved. And I can really say I had a base with the 5 of us. By April, I'm losing weight. My skin's not clear. I'm trying to get in all the information, RSVPs, mailing out the actual wedding invitation, because I couldn't find what I was looking for. And I think I spent most of my time since before really trying to capture what my day was in the invitation, so people came correct to your wedding. You know, like that, I read somewhere online where it said that the invitation is what gives the people the appetizer or the taste to what your wedding will be. So it's and I was like, you know, it's an invitation. Like, yeah, you want it to look cool and nice and fun, but it's like, no, it sets the tone, and you have to set the bar for your guests. So by May, it's crunch time. I'm crying. I'm upset. Poor Jeff is like, it's going to be okay. I'm like, no, like you don't get it. And in all the planning and all the budgeting, I did look into a wedding planner, just the idea of a wedding planner. But two things kind of shied me away from it. Number one, price. Everyone was saying, 10 to 25, even 30% of what your whole budget was for your wedding. So I didn't really have budgets down to a penny. I kind of broke it down like, I'll spend no more than this on flowers. I'll spend no more than this on photo. But I didn't have a whole budget to tell somebody, hey, yeah, I can afford to give you 20% of this. That was number one. And number two, I had that feeling that no one will take your wedding as seriously as yourself. And I didn't have that comfort in any of the planners that I did look at to just delegate those tasks to them and have the confidence that it'll come out right. So I just said, you know what, I'll do it myself. Whatever I would have given to them, I'll put it into something else. So then May comes, the week of the wedding. It's Sunday. My uncle sits me down and he's like, Becky, how do you want the day to unfold? I'm like, okay. I'm sitting down. I'm like, all right, Uncle John, this is what we're going to do. This is how the processional is going to be. And this is the time that we're going to say our vows. And as I'm writing everything down, I look down and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have programs. I don't have programs. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't have programs. The guests are going to come. They're going to sit down. They're not going to know what's going on. I don't have anything. So I call one of my friends. I'm freaking out. And she's like, relax. Call Martine. I'm like, what? She's like, call Martine. She got you. Like, she got you. And like right now. So I call Martine and I'm like, Martine, I don't have programs. The wedding is next Sunday. How am I going to get them printed? How am I going to get them done? And Martine has this thing about her that when you're freaking out, she does this little laugh to kind of loosen you. She does this little laugh on the phone. And you're like, all right, you're not laughing at me, but I'm not laughing, but I'm going to relax because you clearly can handle it. And she was like, Becky, it'll be okay. That night, she emailed me 3 samples. Choose from these 3 samples. How do you want it to go? And I'm like, well, what do you include in these? And she reminded me, she was like, well, you have anything special between you and Jeff that you'd like to include or make it more personal? And I was like, oh my gosh, we wrote poems to each other. Let's put poems. And she's like, that's great. How do you want it to look? I was like, she put it out. She gave me 5 different options. And she was like, okay, girl, now it's time for print. And I got there Tuesday morning. 275 programs were being printed, done, and boxed for that Sunday. And I could not thank Martine enough for that. And I was like, they're done. They're set. They look amazing. People still have them saved at their homes. And I was like, wow. So in the back of my head, I was just like, I really wish I had Martine earlier in the process for other things that I could have done. So I learned from my mistake, and what I do, I said, Martine, you gotta do the thank you cards. Let's just keep it going. Let's keep it going. I see your work. You list, and what I love about Martine and what she did for me, you don't have to do so much effort to explain what you want. You really say, hey, Martine, this is my vision. Put it together. And she's like, okay, give me 30 minutes and you'll get an email. 30 minutes, email, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think of this, and you put it in there and it looks beautiful. Till this day, we have cards that are still at people's homes that everyone has said that they're gorgeous, and I really thank Martine for that at that point. So, actually I have a sample of the thank you card with me. And the program, the lovely program that saves the day. So here's the program. You can pass it around. And the poems are inside. It was all labeled out how it was. And these were our thank you cards that everyone still has. And another thing that I appreciated about how Martine handled her business was that she's not pushy. She's not a pushy planner. You ask for something, but she's timely. She's not pushy, but she's timely. So I said, hey, Marty, I need the thank you card. She's like, okay, cool. I said, here's access to my photos. She drafted up different ones, and then she just waited. She just waited for me. It wasn't text after text or email after email of, you want to do them? Are you going to do them? Are you going to keep going? No, she just let me keep on reaching back out to her. And the minute I reached out to her, no lie, I don't think I've waited more than an hour to get an answer back from Martine on what I needed. So that's what I appreciated. I said, okay, Martine, we got these. She's like, are you done? Yes. Here you go. Here's the final proof. Do you like it? Yes. Okay, next step. And that was that. And I got my thank you cards. Everybody got their thank you cards in under a year. And which is something that's big. And that's what I learned. So I really was happy that I was able to meet Martine at that crunch time and see how she was able to pull through for me. And I just kept her going for just the finale of our wedding. And I became a capable bride.